Every story has a turning point, a moment when everything changes. The turning point.
I always thought betrayal would feel loud, like glass shattering or someone screaming. But when it finally came for me, it was quiet. It started with an envelope, a cream-colored, overly fancy envelope with silver lettering. I almost tossed it, thinking it was some overpriced ad. But then I saw the name. Emily and Adam. My stomach tightened before I even opened it, because I only know one Adam, and he's not supposed to be marrying my sister. Emily is my younger sister, by 4 years to be exact. She's always been the wild one, spontaneous, loud, charming in that effortless way that makes people forgive her way too easily. Me, I was the older, more responsible one. I did things right, got a stable job, married the love of my life, bought a house, paid off the car. But what they don't tell you is, doing everything right doesn't protect you from things going wrong. Adam and I were married for 6 years, and for 5 of them, I really thought we'd make it, until one day we just didn't. We separated quietly. No screaming matches, no court battles, just 2 people growing apart in all the worst ways. That was 3 years ago. Since then, Emily had never once mentioned seeing him, never once asked if it was okay to reach out. Which is why this invitation, this wedding, hit me like a truck. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was another Adam. Maybe she just didn't realize how this looked. But then I checked the photo attached to the invite. There they were. Emily, in a white dress, standing next to my ex-husband, her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist, smiling. I stared at it for way too long. Not out of jealousy, not even anger, really. Just confusion. Because the last time I checked, Emily lived in Seattle, and Adam was still in Atlanta. And when we split, he told me he didn't want to see anyone for a long time. He said he needed to find himself. So how did he end up finding her? And why do I get this sinking feeling that this didn't just happen by chance? I told myself I wasn't going to spiral. I set the invitation down. I made a cup of tea. I even opened a book, trying to pretend that I could just move on. But my eyes kept drifting back to that photo. Emily's smile, Adam's hand, the way they were standing so close, like they'd been doing it for years. I wasn't jealous. That's the truth. I didn't want Adam back. But I did want to know the truth, because something about this didn't sit right. The next morning, I called Emily. I kept my voice light, casual, like I hadn't spent half the night dissecting every detail of that stupid photo. "Got your invitation," I said. "Oh," she laughed. "Pretty, right? I found them on Etsy." "Very elegant. You're coming, right? I mean, it might be weird, but I wouldn't miss it," I said, smiling through my teeth. "I'm dying to see how you two met." There was a pause, just a beat too long. Then she laughed again, higher pitched this time. "Oh, it's actually kind of a funny story," she said. "We ran into each other at a conference in Denver last year. Total coincidence. He didn't even know I'd be there. But Adam hates conferences. He used to call them death by PowerPoint." I didn't say anything. I just let her keep talking. We had drinks after one of the sessions, just catching up, but, one thing led to another. I murmured. That night, I dug out an old photo album. Not digital, the real kind. with sticky pages and printed photos. There it was, a picture of my birthday 4 years ago. Emily, Adam, me. Emily in the corner, looking at him when she thought no one noticed. And Adam, smiling in a way he rarely did anymore, back then. Not at me, at her. How long had this been going on? Was I the last to know? Or the only one who didn't look away? The invitation said the wedding was in 3 weeks. Plenty of time to get answers, to ask the right questions, and maybe, just maybe, to uncover what they both didn't want me to find. The next day, I took a personal day from work. I told my manager I wasn't feeling well, which honestly wasn't a lie. It wasn't my body, it was my gut. And it hadn't stopped twisting since I opened that envelope. I sat down at my kitchen table with a notebook, my laptop, and my phone. Old school, I know. But I needed to see it all in front of me. Timelines, messages, clues. If this was nothing, then fine, I'd find nothing. But if it wasn't, I wasn't going to ignore the signs like I used to. I started with my phone. Scrolling back through old texts with Emily was like digging through a scrapbook of subtle betrayals. Little things I hadn't noticed at the time. Like when she texted, "Sorry, can't talk, meeting a friend in Atlanta for dinner." That was a year and a half ago. She said it was a college friend, but she'd never mentioned who. And then 2 weeks later, got a weird message from Adam, just checking, "Is it okay if I answer?" I'd replied, "Sure, if you want." No follow-up, no explanation. Now I wonder if that was the day they reconnected. Or maybe if they never really disconnected at all. I moved on to Instagram. Emily's account was curated like a lifestyle blog. Smoothies, yoga pants, mountain hikes. Nothing suspicious, unless you knew where to look. I zoomed in on a photo from a solo trip she took to Colorado. The same weekend Adam had told me he was flying to see an old friend out west. The photo was just a coffee cup on a wooden table. Harmless. But in the reflection on the mug, barely visible, I could see a man's hand. It was blurry, but I knew that watch. I gave it to Adam for our 4th anniversary. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a moment. They were lying, both of them. And not just about how they met, but how long they'd been hiding it. I opened my notebook and began sketching out a timeline. Divorce finalized October 2020. Emily's Colorado solo trip, December 2020. The Denver conference she mentioned? That happened in April 2022, over a year later. So unless they'd been just friends for more than a year and suddenly fell in love at a conference neither of them normally attended, yeah, sure. I stared at my phone for a while before finally opening a new message. To Adam. "Hey, got your wedding invite. Congrats, I guess. Can we talk sometime soon? Just need to clear my head." I hovered over the send button, then tapped it. No reply came that day, but the silence said more than enough. The message sat on my phone all day, unread. No 3 dots, no reply, no acknowledgement. Adam had seen it. I knew that much. He was the type who never left notifications unattended. At first, I told myself he was just busy, that maybe he needed time. But by the next morning, when I still hadn't heard a word, I realized what this was. Silence. And silence, I've learned, is just another kind of answer. It wasn't anger I felt. Not yet. It was something colder. A kind of resolve. If he wouldn't give me the truth, I'd find it myself. I dug deeper. I searched my email, not his, obviously, but old shared confirmations from our married days. Flights, Airbnbs, hotel reservations. I look for overlaps, for anything suspicious. And then I found it. A receipt buried in a shared Dropbox folder we used to store joint files. Hotel Clover, Denver. 2 nights. December 12th through 14th, 2020. Booked under his name, but with 2 guests listed. I stared at the date. December 2020. Just like Emily's solo coffee shop trip. I didn't even know they'd stayed at that hotel. We always used a different chain when we traveled together. That means he didn't use our usual account. He was hiding it even back then. I called the hotel, pretended I was planning a honeymoon, asked about the room types. The clerk on the phone was cheerful and oblivious. "I see you've stayed with us before," she said brightly. "Last time was winter 2020, I think?" "Oh, that must have been my fiancé," I said. "I'm trying to plan something similar to what he booked." She checked. "Ah, Deluxe Queen, Mountain View, 2 guests, late check-in." "Perfect," I said. "Thanks." I hung up and sat there in the silence. Again. Not the kind of silence that brings peace. The kind that fills your lungs and makes you wonder how long you've been the fool in someone else's story. Then, finally, a buzz. A message. From Adam. "Hey, sorry, I was traveling. Didn't expect to hear from you. Everything okay?" Sarcastic. Didn't expect to hear from me? He's marrying my sister and thought I'd just send a thank you card? I didn't respond right away. I couldn't, because suddenly I wasn't sure what I wanted to say. What I wanted was to look him in the eye and ask, "When did you start sleeping with her? Was it before or after we split? And how long did you two laugh behind my back before deciding to make it permanent?" Instead, I typed, "I'd like to meet, in person, before the wedding." His reply came instantly. "Sure, let me know when." I stared at those 4 words. Not sorry, not surprised, not even hesitant. Just, sure. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our places. Neutral ground, public, safe. Exactly the kind of place you choose when you're about to dig up something ugly. He was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window with a mug in his hand like he had nothing to hide. Same watch, same jacket, same face I used to know better than my own. "Hey," he said, standing up awkwardly like we were old coworkers who hadn't seen each other since a conference. "Hi." I didn't smile. I didn't hug. I just sat. He waited until I ordered. Tea, of course. I couldn't stomach coffee with him. When I returned, he cleared his throat. "I didn't think this would be easy," he said. "It's not," I replied. "But let's not waste time pretending it is." He nodded, looking down. "I didn't plan to fall for her," he said finally. "It just happened." There it was. Not even denial, just inevitability. "When?" I asked. He looked up, caught my eyes, then dropped his gaze again. "It's complicated." "No," I said, sharper now. "It's really not. When, Adam? Before the divorce? During? After?" A pause. Then, quietly, "Before we sign the papers." Not a flinch. Not even a sorry. "You were with my sister," I said, "while you were still married to me." He looked pained, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or just the discomfort of being caught. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said. "It wasn't about revenge or anything like that. I was lonely. You and we were already done, and so you decided to warm your feet in my family? Real classy." He winced. "Emily was there for me. She listened. She also lied to me for years." She said she wanted to tell you, but it was easier not to, right? He didn't answer. That told me enough. I took a slow sip of tea, let the heat burn down the back of my throat. Do our parents know? He blinked. She told them last month. And they're okay with this? He hesitated. They had questions, but Emily made it sound like you'd moved on. I laughed. Moved on? I was rebuilding. There's a difference. Silence again. You think marrying her makes it better? I asked. That putting a ring on it erases the betrayal? No, he said softly, but it makes it real. And I love her. Those words hit harder than I expected. I don't care if you love her, I said. You could love a cactus for all I care. What matters is the two people I trusted most chose to build something on top of a lie. He didn't respond. And honestly, I didn't need him to. I stood. Tell Emily I'll be at the wedding. Don't worry. He looked surprised. You're still coming? Oh, yes, I said, grabbing my coat. But not for the reason you think. And with that, I walked out. Because now, I wasn't just attending. I was planning something of my own. I wasn't here to ruin a wedding. I kept repeating that to myself, like a mantra, as I sat at the table with my laptop and a folder in front of me. But the truth was, I also wasn't going to let another lie go unspoken. What Adam and Emily did to me, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was a mirror. It forced me to look at how often I'd let people lie to me and called it love. So no, I wasn't going to stand up and make a speech. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg someone to see me. I was just going to tell the truth and let it land wherever it needed to. I started gathering what I had. First, a photo. Emily 2 years ago with a man named Ryan. She said she was in a dark place after a breakup, figuring herself out. But the photo told a different story. The way she looked at him, the way his hand rested on her lower back. They weren't friends. Then the certificate, her son Oliver. She never told our family the full story, just that she lost someone and needed time. The reality? She left the child with Ryan's family in North Carolina. She hadn't visited in over a year. She never told Adam. I was sure of that. Next, a screenshot from a group chat she forgot to delete fast enough. I'm not dragging that into my next chapter. Adam is clean. He's a fresh start. That was about her son, about the life she was walking away from to start a new one with my ex-husband. And then there was Adam. A dinner receipt from Chicago dated just 6 months before our separation. 2 entrees, champagne, a dessert for 2. All on a work trip he said was boring in all meetings. And a selfie I found on an old shared cloud folder. A woman in his hotel room mirror, half-dressed, smiling. Not Emily, not me, just another shadow and a long line of things I was never supposed to find. I didn't write a letter. Not this time. Instead, I built a timeline. 8 pages, printed clean and simple. No color, no commentary, just dates, facts. Emily's trip to Asheville matched with Ryan's check-ins. The hospital record for Oliver's birth. Adam's trip to Chicago. The deleted messages. A calendar showing overlap. A final photo. Adam and Emily together months before our divorce was finalized. Then I boxed them. 30 small envelopes, 1 per guest. I called the venue and said I was helping with favors. They didn't question it. People rarely do when you sound calm and helpful. That night, I sat on the floor surrounded by those envelopes. I didn't feel proud. It didn't feel cruel. I felt done. Because maybe it wasn't my place to stop this wedding. But it was my place to stop pretending. Let the guests believe what they want. Let Emily spin whatever story she thinks will save face. But at least now, everyone would know what kind of love they were clapping for. The sun was high when I arrived. Clear skies. White chairs. soft music drifting through the garden air like nothing in the world could go wrong. But something already had. They just didn't know it yet. I wore navy again. Clean lines, minimal makeup, no jewelry. I didn't want to sparkle. I wanted to disappear into the corner of their perfect day and let the truth do the rest. The planner greeted me with a clipboard and a distracted smile. "Are those the guest favors?" I handed her the box of envelopes. 30, one for each guest. "Please place them on the chairs before the ceremony." Of course. She didn't even ask what was inside. People rarely do when you smile and sound organized. I took a seat in the second row, not front and center, but close enough to watch it all unfold. Emily's friends fluttered past in pastel dresses. Her coworkers laughed too loudly. One of Adam's uncles patted him on the back and said, "Nervous, huh?" with a grin. Adam smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then I saw her, Emily, dressed in white, makeup flawless, eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on me. She froze for just a second, then smiled, a flicker of confidence or defense. I couldn't tell. The envelopes had already been placed, neatly, precisely, one per chair. I watched a woman in the third row untie the ribbon and slide out the pages. Her brows furrowed. She leaned toward her husband. He took it, flipped through it, stopped on page 5. His jaw tightened. Another guest opened theirs, then another. The energy shifted like a cold wind passing through a warm room. Some looked confused. Others whispered. One man stood up and walked out, shaking his head. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Emily was still backstage, no doubt holding a bouquet and waiting for the music cue. But Adam was already out front. He noticed. He leaned toward his best man, said something sharp, and took a step toward the rows of guests. Someone handed him a copy. He read it, slowly, page by page. No reaction. Not at first. But then I saw it. His shoulders dropped. He looked up at the crowd, then at me. And for the first time in years, I saw recognition in his eyes. Not love, not hate, just the terrible realization that he'd been part of something ugly, and now everyone knew. The music started. The crowd hushed. But Adam didn't move. He stepped back, whispered something to the officiant, and then walked away. No words, no scene, just turned and left. People looked around, confused. The music kept playing for a few beats, then stopped, mid-note. A woman in the back said, "Is this part of it?" Another murmured, "Where's Emily?" I stood, walked calmly down the side aisle. No one stopped me. No one spoke. Behind me, the wedding crumbled in silence. But I didn't look back, because I wasn't there to burn it down. I just removed the match they'd been hiding under the altar all along. I didn't go home right away. I drove, windows down, music off. Just the hum of the road and the quiet in my chest that had taken years to come. Not peace, not yet, but space. My phone rang once, then again. Emily. I didn't pick up. I stopped at the Overlook just outside of town, the same place Adam once took me to after we got engaged. It looked different now, smaller, quieter, like something that belonged to a different version of me. The phone buzzed again. Voicemail. I let it go. I sat on the hood of my car, wrapped my arms around my knees, and watched the sun slip lower behind the trees. It wasn't that I didn't care, I just didn't owe them anything anymore. 30 minutes later, a text came in. You made your point. Hope you're proud of yourself. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. I wasn't going to explain. Not to her. Not anymore. She'd built her world on secrets, and I had simply handed out the floor plan. I don't know if they'll try to fix it. Maybe they'll spin a new story. Maybe they'll blame me, say I ruined everything. Let them. The truth is, if a few printed pages were enough to break them, then they were already broken. That night, I sat on my porch with a blanket and a glass of wine. No music, no phone. Just the sounds of cicadas and the creak of wood beneath me. And I thought about all the things I could have said. You betrayed me. You broke something I trusted. You don't deserve a happy ending. But none of that mattered now. Because the most important thing I didn't say was the one I'd finally learned to believe. I'm not the one who should be ashamed. Sometimes justice doesn't look like revenge. It looks like finally letting go of someone who thought you'd never stand up. And sometimes it looks like walking away from a burning wedding with your head high and your hands clean.
If this story moved you, there's more to come. Subscribe and don't miss the next turning point.